At 15, it was all about having the best cleats, like the ones that Lionel Messi had. Then it was all about getting into a good school, just to prove myself. Then once I got into college, it was all about having abs, designer sneakers, looking good at the beach and in spring break, all just for validation. But no one really tells you what happens after you finally get it all and still feel empty. That was me until betrayal, failure, and God cracked me open. So the real question isn't, does money get you more attention? Does it make you more attractive? But really, it is, what are you really chasing? Growing up, everything seems like you're being rewarded by performance. If you have a nice toy, everyone looks at the toy and tells you, hey, you have a cool toy, whatever. It's about having the highest grades, the cleanest image, success, aesthetics, popularity, everything from the outside. And it seems like praise is conditional. And then you start believing, I'm only enough when I achieve something, or when I have something that people see and then associate with me. So then you start chasing praise, not because you love what you're doing, but because you start getting afraid of not being enough without it. There's this book called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. Hopefully I'm saying her last name right. The quote says, so sabotage isn't about laziness. It's what happens when your actions are trying to meet a need that still hasn't met, like a need to feel worthy. So when you build your self-worth based on applause or by everyone just saying, hey, whatever you have looks cool, you spend your life, or at least that moment, and it happened with me, on performing based and looking for the applause instead of actually living. And I know that was when you were a small kid, maybe on like the toys, whatever self-validation you're looking. But as we get older, nothing changes, it just gets more expensive. It's getting into a nice school so your parents can feel proud of you and they can just tell their friends that, hey, my kid going to a nice, prestigious school. And then when it was me in college, at least it was, having abs, designer sneakers, looking super diced for spring break and having my base popping off. Looking back, not because I loved it, but because I felt like I wanted to matter. I wanted people to speak about me. And then you start thinking that your worth is tied up to what you look on the outside. So if somebody else comes to the scene looking nicer, louder, with something else richer, you feel left behind. So it happened many times in college, and that's when I realized comparison, it is the thief of joy, because you don't appreciate the things that you have at the moment, because you're looking outside for like, that person's getting more validation, I need to get this, I need to get that. And truthfully, it also happens in the world of business when you will realize that there's everyone out there, there's somebody out there with a nicer boat, a yacht, a private jet. It always happens as well. So like if you keep chasing that validation, you're gonna go nowhere. So be honest with yourself for a second. And again, this really hurt me. How much are you doing today just to be seen? Because there's a Bible verse that really hit me today. And especially reading it, looking back into that season when all I was looking for was validation. And it says, am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? If I were still trying to please man, I will not be a servant to Christ. And that's Galatians 1:10. But yes, you keep chasing this validation until something eventually cracks, and it will, trust me. And for me, it wasn't just like one event that kind of cracked me down. It was a combination of many. Betrayal, getting cheated on, disappointment, my visa in the US and my work permit in the US getting completely denied, I think 3 times, and getting a letter from immigration saying that I had to leave the country. And in 1 week, I had to sell everything in my apartment through Facebook Marketplace, running down, getting everything into a box, sending it via DHL to Colombia. And I fought years for that permit, and it got denied, but whatever. So that pain of a bunch of different things, and not that everything happened like sequentially, but it all happened in a season of life, that really shook something deeper in my core. And it forced me to confront a super hard question, who am I when no one's clapping? It wasn't just about that. I feel like through retrospection and thinking about this, like I built my entire identity on external stuff, the image, the ambition, the next milestone. There's a book that's called The Way of the Superior Man, and it speaks about this, and it's a really good book. This book says, every man knows the pain of living a life not aligned with his deepest purpose. That's what I didn't have. I didn't have a deep purpose because I was chasing everything else outside of me just to get a couple claps, just to get validation, women, attention, money, etc. So that's exactly what I felt. And that's when there's another verse in the Bible from Mark 8:36 that makes a lot of sense. And it says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? And I feel like I didn't know what this Bible verse was at the time, but reading it today, it made the pain make sense. And it's like boxing. And if you haven't boxed, getting punched in the face really sucks. You get punched really hard. And when you go into the ring or when you're sparring and you get punched really hard, it doesn't matter how big you are, your ego shuts up. Like it really does. And that's when you're actually learning, when you're getting punched in the face. And that's what happened to me. I stopped chasing the dopamine and I was forced to sit in stillness. I was forced, because of all those pains and all those disappointments and all those failures, I was forced to look for answers. And that's when I was forced to find mentors. I was forced into relying on God, praying. I was forced to journal, seek therapy, lots of it. And I realized that I didn't need outside praise. It's when I needed anchors the most. I was forced to build values because I don't think I had any, if I'm being honest. And I had to, and I'm defining my calling. And truthfully, through those bad moments, that's when I truthfully reconnected with God. And then that's where Psalms 37:4 made more sense. And it says, delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. This is the super cheesy quote that you see on everyone's bumper stickers, I guess, but that made sense to me. Not because He's going to give you what your ego wants, but it's what aligns best with you as you're chasing your calling and as you're finding your calling. But to be 100% honest and 100% candid with you, I'm still trying to get better at this. I still truthfully struggle with this as I'm still trying to figure out what's the calling. What am I here for? But yes, I used to think that more money meant more status, more attention, more admiration from other people. Maybe something that I was seeking because I didn't have for myself. But I'm not gonna lie with you, like, the admiration, yeah, it came with more attention. And I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty fun. But yes, more money equals way more options. And that's when the real question kind of is, what are you gonna do with those options? Because if you're working hard, if you're focused, if you own a business and you invest in books and in knowledge, you're gonna become successful if you don't quit. So what are you gonna do with the money? What are you gonna do with those options? Because money, I feel like, and I've spoken about this in other videos, money is awesome. But money without inner peace, I feel like it's just more chaos. And it's more of the bad things that you have but you haven't fixed. Money without the purpose is bad, and it's just a bunch of noise. And money without God and guidance from Him, I feel like that's when a lot of people lose their soul. That's just when a lot of evil happens. But yes, I'm not perfect today. I'm still building. I'm extremely ambitious. I'm seeking a lot of wealth. I'm very open about that. I believe that money is awesome. It really is. And when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of options. But if your options are focused on God, I think that's where greatness is. Not gonna lie, I'm still anxious. I still work a lot. And I'm trying to become better at building with trust. And now it's a little bit different. I'm not building because I want to impress somebody out there. I'm not building to impress on Instagram. I truly am trying to become Him. Not Him, but the person who I'm supposed to become. Because that, for me, that's what being rich actually means. Not just money, yes, it's awesome, but mission, peace, stewardship, legacy, and truthfully, a lot of impact. And if you're in that season where you're chasing, where you're struggling, where there's a lot of tribulations, I get it. I'm still going through a lot of those. I still go through a lot of stress. I still go through a lot of shit. But I'm telling you, chasing the outside, that's not going to fix it. I feel like alignment is what's truly going to fix that. So the better question to ask is, are you building wealth to feel valuable, or because you finally understand your value? And if you made it this far, I appreciate you. I know these videos are a little bit different from what I usually tend to post, because what I do is I help businesses, and hopefully some of these videos help you become the person who you want to become. But if you want to learn more about what I do for other businesses, then I'll link a video down below where I can teach you everything that I do for other businesses. For now, I'll see you in the next one.